Hello dears, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. Today we are going to have a revision for the main points that we had taken in the offline lectures, so you don't need to copy and paste this lecture or this revision in the final because it's a summary for the main points that we had taken before. So just to remind you with the main points in each chapter. So for the first chapter, we have corporate governance and agency, and we define corporate governance as the rules, processes, and laws by which companies are operated, controlled, and regulated. And it can also be defined as the rights, responsibilities of the corporate participants. These corporate participants such as shareholders, stakeholders, BOD, and so on. So we classify the two classes of owners, as we have individual owners and institutional owners. The individual ones, they own a small quantities of shares and do not have a sufficient means to direct the influence of corporate governance in the firm. So they don't have the right to do so. But the institutional investors have these advantages over the individual ones because they can influence the corporate governance of the firm. What else? We also talk about the corporate regulations or the government regulations. The government regulations which generally shapes the corporate governance of all the firm. As the corporate governance has received an increased attention due to the abuse of corporate power. So when we have an abuse in corporate power, the corporate governance has received this increase of attention. What about the abuses, or what do we mean by abuses derived from the two main types? Or what about the abuses that comes from the corporate governance? This abuse can happen from the false disclosures and with the undisclosed conflicts of interest between corporations and auditors or etc. So here, to have abuse of corporate governance, we have to make a false disclosure and we have conflict of interest between corporations and their auditors, analysts, and so on. Okay, so this is for the corporate or the government regulation. What about the Sarbanes-Oxley? In this chapter also we have a hint for Sarbanes-Oxley, which is about the eliminate of many disclosures and conflicts of interest problems. So I need to eliminate these interest problems. I need to eliminate the conflicts of disclosures. So I will use the Sarbanes-Oxley that can arise when the corporate managers are not held personally for their firm financial decisions and disclosures. So to get off the conflict of interest or the interest problems, we need to use the Sarbanes-Oxley. So the Sarbanes-Oxley accomplished the following. From the Sarbanes-Oxley, we can establish an oversight board to monitor the accounting industry. We also can tighten audited regulations and controls. We can tighten the penalties against the executive who commits corporate frauds. Also, we can make accounting disclosure requirements more strong. Then we can establish the corporate board structure and membership guidelines. So by using Sarbanes-Oxley, we can solve the conflict of interest problems between the different parties in the corporation, because we can establish an oversight board. We can make the audit regulations more strong. Also, we can make a penalties against executives who tend or who make this fraud. And also we can make the accounting disclosure requirements more strong. So here we need to have more details about the agency issue. What do you mean by agency issue? Agency issue is the duty for the financial manager to maximize the wealth. Here, the financial manager wants to maximize his wealth. So we have the conflicts of interest that we have talked about it before. So here, the duty of the agency issue is to maximize the wealth of the firm's owners. Shareholders give managers decision-making authority over the firm. So the most financial manager would agree with the goal of shareholder wealth maximization. They want to maximize their wealth. So in reality, however, managers are also concerned with their personal wealth, job security, and benefits. So here, the agency problem arises when managers deviate from the goal of maximization of shareholder wealth by placing their personal goals ahead. They want only their personal goals and not interested in the corporation goals. So here the agency problems appear. And this will make the corporation under the threat of takeover. What do we mean by the threat of takeover? When a firm's internal corporate governance structures is unable to keep agency problems. This means that when agency problems increases, when the owners put his goals ahead and ignore the goals of the corporation, the agency problem increase. When the agency problems increase, this means that we have a threat of takeover. The threat of takeover is about or is appeared when the corporation is unable to keep the agency problems in check. So it's likely that the managers will try to gain control over the firm because agency problems represent a misuse of the firm's resources. Okay, so the agency costs will increase and the threat of takeover by another firm can be happened. So another firm can take or make a threat of takeover over this firm. Okay, and this threat of takeover by this firm believes which believes it can enhance the troubled firm's value by restructuring its management. So the another firm need to make the first one to have a takeover. So the another firm which needs to make this threat of takeover believes that it can enhance the troubled firm's value by restructuring its management. So the other firm need to restructure the management operations financing to have a strong source of external corporate governance. Okay, then we go through the creative accounting in chapter 2, and I repeat again, these are the main points in each chapter. We cannot take this revision as it is, copy and paste in the final, because in the final we need to write in more details. Okay, so what about the main points in the creative accounting, which is the next chapter after the corporate governance and agency? We have talked about earnings, as earnings indicate to the single direct resource allocation in capital market. As investors and analysts look to earnings to determine the attractiveness of a particular stock. So if you are an investor or if you are a financial analyst, you will look to the earnings for each company to determine how to invest or to determine whether you can invest in this company or not. So the company's stock is measured by the present value of its future earnings. Companies with poor earnings will have lower share prices. So if you have a poor earnings, you will get a poor or a lower share price. Okay, and this for the earnings. What about the earnings management? Yes, we talked about the earnings, and we need to talk about earnings management and what is the relationship between those. So earnings management defined as a reasonable and legal management decision making to achieve a stable and predictable financial results. So I need to have a predictable and stable financial results, so I will go ahead with the earnings management. So the earnings management is about, or is defined as a strategy used by management of the company to manipulate the company's earnings. So I need to control the earnings of this company, so I will have the strategy of earnings management. So an accounting expert can manipulate earnings. If I have an accounting expert, he can manipulate earnings in several ways. Okay, with the boundaries of accounting standards actually. So if I have an expert with the boundaries of accounting standards, I can manipulate earnings of this firm. Earnings management is the firm's strategic tool for maximizing firm value and reducing risks. How the earning management can do so? We agreed that earnings management can staple my earnings, or can make me control the earnings of this firm. This means a higher share price, and this means a higher profit. So the strategy of earnings management can be considered as a strategic tool for maximizing firm value and reducing risks, because the share price of this company is always high, or it's stable. So it can be dependent on this strategy to reduce risks. So earnings management can be defined as the accounting policies or the accurate controls chosen by the management of enterprises to make the earnings reach the expected level. So according to the earnings management, I have some expected levels, or I have to control my earnings in this company. I need to reach the reduction of risks, and I need to maximize the firm value. So I will have the earnings management strategy with the accountant expert to manipulate these earnings with the boundaries of accounting standards. Okay, the factors that motivate earnings management or make the earnings management happen, there are internal and external. Okay, the main internal reasons is to meet targets. So my internal motivate is to meet the targets of this firm and to reduce risk and to rise the share price of the firm. This is the internal reasons. What about the external ones? The external factors can be shown when the company may have previously projected numbers that external parties are expecting. This means that we have an external parties. These external parties expected something and need to see these expectations to keep with the investment of this corporation. So this is considered as an external factor. Okay. Also, income smoothing is the second external factor to earnings management, and we talked in details about the income smoothing. Okay, so what about the techniques of earnings management? The most successful and widely used earnings management techniques can be classified into 12 categories, and we also have talked in details about each one of these 12 categories, and here is some of the most common ones. Okay, and I need to repeat that we cannot make like this in the final, because in the final we need to write in details, and this revision is just for make like a hint or like a highlighter on the main points in each chapter. So the techniques of earnings management is about 12 categories, and these 12 categories we have most common categories from these described as below. Number 1, the cookie jars technique. The cookie jar technique deals with the estimations of future events according to the GAAP, which is the GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles. So the cookie jar techniques deals with these principles for the future events, to estimate the future events. Okay, the second one is for the big path techniques. Sometimes corporations may restructure debt, write down assets, or change and close down the operating segment. So in this instance, expenses are generally unavoidable. So when expenses becomes unavoidable, this means that we have a big path techniques. Okay? The third one is about the big bet of the future technique. So under the generally accepted accounting principles, which is the GAAP regulations, an acquisition must be reported as a purchase. So if you have an acquisition, will be reported as a purchase under the generally accepted accounting principles. And this means that when the costs are actually incurred in the future, they will not have to be reported. The fourth one about the flushing of the investment portfolio. This means that actual gains or losses from sales or any changes in the market value of trading securities are reporting as an operating income. So if you have acquisition, this will be reported as a purchase. If you have market value or any changes in the market value of trading securities, this will be reported as an operating income, and this is under the big bet future technique and the flushing of the investment portfolio. Okay, so how to control the earnings management? The earnings management can be controlled by using three ways. The first one is to control earnings management when it's under the accounting techniques. So by using accounting techniques, I can control earnings management. Also, the corporate governance practices can reduce or can control the earnings management by using its structures to indicate the manipulation if it happens. The third one is about the board of directors. The board of directors can set overall policy to control this earnings management. So today, dears, we revised the main points for chapter 1 and 2, and I hope from you to revise it in more details and to have a look on the lectures that we have put in the site, or what we have submitted or what we have made for the e-learning site, and have a look also in your book and what we have highlight in the lecture, in each lecture under the chapters or for each chapter. So I need from you to have a look in more details about chapter 1 and 2 and wait for revision part 2. All the best. Thank you.